What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and we are back for another CD collection update video. This is update number 2. Yeah, like I said, once I get like a big haul of like maybe 8 or more albums per video, I will be doing an update video just for you guys, so you guys can see everything as I get them. I was originally going to wait to do this video until a certain album came in the mail, but it ain't gonna be here till Monday, and plus, probably within the next 2 weeks I'll have a bunch more coming in anyways, so it gives me more time to get more to provide with you, or provide for you guys another update. So here we have, for this episode of the update, we got this giant stack. This is coming from a couple different places. I got 8 of these albums from Nuclear Blast Records shop when they gave me a coupon code the week after my birthday, and I thought to myself, you know what, why don't I go ahead and use this, and I could probably get a bunch of these albums on there pretty cheap, and I did. 5 of them I got at a record shop not last week, but this past Monday. And then a couple of them I got them from Amazon or eBay. So, without further ado, let's get started. So first we have Accept Blood of the Nations, 2010 masterpiece. I mean, this album is what pretty much started the current comeback run for Accept, because, you know, before this album it had been a long time since there had been an Accept album, and through drama with Udo Dirkschneider, and they picked up Mark Tornillo from TT Quick to be the new vocalist. And he blows Udo out of the water, I'm going to say right now. And honestly, I think this current run Accept has been on, I think is the best Accept has ever been. Well, maybe except for Restless and Wild and Balls to the Wall, but still, I mean, Blood of the Nations, this album kicked so much ass. Songs like Teutonic Terror, The Abyss, Beat the Bastards. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant stuff right here from 2010. Probably one of the best albums from 2010, at least in my eyes. So yeah, we got Accept Blood of the Nations. That was one that I bought off of Nuclear Blast's shop. Same with this next one, their latest album, Too Mean to Die. This album, I really liked it. If you guys hadn't seen my review for this album, go check it out. I mean, I love this album top to bottom. I mean, songs like Zombie Apocalypse, The Undertaker, Symphony of Pain, Not My Problem. Even some of the more corny songs I thought were kind of funny, like Overnight Sensation, where they basically take jabs at people who, like the Kardashians, who are only famous for stupid shit. It's just, wow. This is a hell of a traditional heavy metal album from 2021. And definitely pick this up if you are a fan of classic metal and or the band Accept. Next up, we got another one from Nuclear Blast shop, and that is Amorphous Queen of Time, the latest Amorphous album. I got this one particularly because it was only $8, but I do like Amorphous. I prefer their older stuff, like their first 2 albums when they were more of a mellow death doom band. I mean, they're still mellow death now, but they kind of incorporate elements of prog and hard rock. But regardless, Queen of Time I thought was really cool. I mean, especially that song Among Stars with Enique from The Gathering doing the vocals. But I mean, totally vocally driven, but I really like it for that reason. Plus, for some reason, when I posted this to my Instagram that I got this album, people went fucking nuts. Even the singer Tommy liked my post. So if you're watching this, Tommy, which I don't know why you would be, thank you very much. I will get more Amorphous at some point. And boom. Alright, so the next 2 I got off of Amazon, and these were the 2 albums that was supposed to have been in the first update, but they didn't get here till afterwards. Coroner albums, first the debut, Rest in Peace. I mean, I said it in the previous update video, I think Coroner is arguably the most underrated metal band of all time. I mean, they're a 3-piece band, prog thrash, tech thrash, whatever you want to call it. This is definitely their most technical album. I mean, songs like Reborn Through Hate, Nosferatu, Spiral Dreams, Suicide Command. There's just a lot of masterful instrumentation on this album, and it just, mwah, absolutely glorious. And produced by the great Harris Johns. Then the final Corner album that I got is their last one, Grin, from 1993, when they were experimenting a little bit with their sound. This is the least familiar album for me when it comes to Corner, but it's certainly no slouch. It's definitely, in my opinion, the low-end Corner album, but it's still really good. Like, Corner is another one of those metal bands that does not have a bad album. And they're... oh, shit. Disc flew out. That's because the inner case holder is kind of broken, but regardless, this is a great band, and they're supposed to be having a new album out at some point, and I can't wait to hear it. Alright, the next two are also from Nuclear Blast's record shop, and that is, first off, Enslaved E. I mean, Enslaved has been on a tear really ever since... well, I mean, they've been on a tear since the beginning, but in this more prog black metal, really ever since the early 2000s, and I've now got their last 3 albums on CD. I need to get more Enslaved because they are a great band, and E is certainly no exception to that rule, that they continue to just pump out phenomenal albums, and this was definitely one of them. Same with their latest album from late last year, Utgard. I think this is maybe my personal favorite Enslaved album of the past 5 years since End Times. This one, I mean, it's got a lot of like Celtic Frost groove. I really enjoyed this when it came out, and it made my album of the year list for 2020, so definitely some good stuff here. And they got a new EP coming out, which I might give that a listen, and we'll see how it sounds. The next one I got off eBay, and this was an album I've been trying to find for a little bit, and now I have it. Exodus, Pleasures of the Flesh. Their second album they ever did, and the first one with the great Zetro Steve Sousa, who I'm actually friends with one of his kids, Cody Sousa, and he's a really cool guy, hell of a vocalist and a bass player in his own right. But I mean, I think Pleasures of the Flesh, out of all the Exodus albums, this one, in my opinion, may be the most underrated. Like, I think people kind of forget about this album because it was, like, right in between their amazing debut, Bonded by Blood, and the follow-up, which was another great album, Fabulous Disaster. So, it just gets forgotten about because it came out right in the middle of 2 classics. I think this album's fantastic in its own right. The title track especially, one of my favorite Exodus songs. So, we got that one. Alright, back to Nuclear Blast Records albums. Next up we got Fear Factory Aggression Continuum, the new album. I'm sure Kamikaze Games has this album. If he doesn't, haha, I'm gonna make you jealous. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the final album with Burton as the vocalist as he left, and I gotta say this, Dino Cazares, you need to quit responding to complaints on Twitter, because you're making yourself look like a dickhead. I'm just gonna say that right now. Love you, Dino, but stop replying to people on Twitter. It does not help you. Anyways, but yeah, I haven't listened to this whole thing all the way through. I've only heard the singles. Fuel Injected Suicide Machine out of the 2 was my favorite because it reminded me of that demanufacture era material. But I'm sure the rest of this album's fantastic, and once I give it a listen, we'll see if it makes my album of the year list later this year. But I gotta listen to this all the way through, but I'm glad I got it in the collection. Owning the last piece of Burton C. Bell history. Alright, and now we begin into the albums. Actually, I just realized I forgot one. I forgot to pull one off the shelf, and thankfully I remembered it's the next one. Another album from Nuclear Blast Records. Immortal Northern Chaos Gods, which is most likely going to be the final Immortal album we're ever going to get. Unfortunately, no Abath. It's just Demonos, Horg, and Peter Takarin. But Demonos, I think, does a great job with vocals and guitars. I thought this was a great album when it came out in 2018. And dare I say, it was, in my opinion, one of the best albums of that year. I mean, songs like the title track, Into Battle Ride, Mighty Raven Dark. It's Immortal. What do you expect? I feel like it would have been better if Abath was singing and was in the band, but regardless, it's still a great album. No complaints from me. Next up, now we get into some albums that I got at the record shop this past Monday. And first off, it is, of course, the new Iron Maiden album, Sinjutsu. Of course, I did my review, and thank you guys who have commented and given that video so much response. Yeah, I still stand by what I said in the review so far, and that it's a great album, but not quite Album of the Year contender, at least not at the moment. Maybe with more listens, it'll grow, and it will end up in the top 10, maybe, or at least an honorable mention. I think it will at least be an honorable mention, but I need to give more I need to digest it more, but I have it in my collection now. It's a thick one, 2 disc, no complaints. Next up, we got another one from the record shop I went to, and finally I got more than one Overkill album in my collection. I got Under the Influence, the album that came out before their masterpiece, Years of Decay. I mean, this album, Overkill 3, Under the Influence, Hello from the Gutter is one of Overkill's most famous songs. So, yeah, definitely an underrated gem. And again, this was another case like Pleasures of the Flesh, where it just happened to come out right in between 2 classics. Taking Over, which came out the year before this, and Years of Decay, which came out the year after this. Kind of a weird dynamic here with Exodus and Overkill, where it's like they have a middle album in between 2 classics, so to speak. And I need a drink real quick. So moving on to another one that I got from Nuclear Blast Records, and now I have another band discography completed, and that's Possessed with Revelations of Oblivion. I actually did review this album when it came out in 2019, and I definitely had my critiques about it, and it actually got to the point where I actually talked to Jeff Becerra, the vocalist, about it, and he was a really cool guy, really down to earth. He kind of was not coming off as correcting me on certain things that I misunderstood, but he was so cool about it. And also, great news, he's finally able to walk again. Granted, with the help of robot leg technology. But the first time in 30 years, he's actually walking. So, Jeff, I salute you, man. But this album is really, really good in its own right. I mean, No More Room in Hell, Damned, Demon, Shadow Cult, Ritual, Graven. If you guys saw my review, you know my opinion about this album. It's fantastic stuff. So now I have all 3, or 4, Possessed releases. 7 Churches, Beyond the Gates, Eyes of Horror, and now Revelations. Next up, another one that I got from the record shop this past Monday, and that's the First Rush album, 1974. This was before they went full-on prog. This was when they were more hard rock, heavy metal, kind of like Sabbath, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin kind of band. This was before they incorporated the elements from the prog rock bands of the time, like Genesis, Yes, King Crimson, Jethro Tull. But yeah, it's a great underrated debut. Of course, it gets forgotten about because Neil Peart wasn't in the band yet, and also this was before they went full tilt prog, like arguably the greatest prog band of all time. This just was right before that era, and it was a completely different sound. But still, great stuff. No complaints. This next one I got from eBay. So now this one, I have been searching for this album for a long time now. and I missed out on the chance to get it one time, and I thought I would never get another chance again, until scouring through eBay, and the same person that I bought the Pleasures of the Flesh album from Exodus, they had this. Now, to preface, I have a version of this album, but it's the Metal Blade / US version, the original recording. But because of the story behind it, where they took it to their European label, and they didn't like the sound and told them they needed to do better. And this is the version that came out in Europe on their label, Steamhammer Records, and that is Sodom Obsessed by Cruelty, the first album. So now I have two versions of this album. One, the US version, which is actually in the same disc with In the Sign of Evil. And now the German version, the more raw, more sloppy recording, in my opinion. I prefer the US version over the European version because I like that more sinister sound. And it sounds closer to In the Sign of Evil. But this one's a great version too. It's in D tuning, whereas the original version was in standard. So they tuned down a little bit on this one. But they had an extra song, After the Deluge. Great debut, very raw, very much like first wave black metal right here on top of the thrash sound. But hey, finally got this in the collection, and unless I were to find a cheaper copy of the final Sign of Evil, I'll pretty much have everything Sodom. So there you have it. We got two more. Next up is another one that I got from the record shop, and that is the debut from Tool with Undertow. I had been trying, I don't know why, it's like every time I think about getting this CD, it always slips my head, or I put it back and forget about it. This time I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna buy it right now, I don't care. So I have the first 4 Tool albums. The only album I'm missing now from Tool is the new one, Fear Inoculum, but for some reason that's proven to be hard to get right now, even though it's only been out for 2 years. But yeah, Undertow, very good debut. This is when they were more straight up metal with some alternative influence. A little bit of prog, but not as much as the following 4 albums. But still, great debut from a powerhouse of a band. And now the final CD that I also got from the record shop, and that is Van Halen Fair Warning. This was pretty cheap. I got this for $5 and it was in great shape. I mean, I'm planning on getting all of the early 70s and through to the mid-80s Roth era Van Halen stuff. I'm not a big fan of the Sammy Hagar era Van Halen, personally. I prefer Roth. To me, David Lee Roth is the voice of Van Halen. Wow, rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen, the mastermind of the band. But yeah, this is a great album. Mean Street, Dirty Movies, Unchained, So This Is Love. I mean, just fantastic stuff from 1981. Classic hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to say. So anyways, that was update number 2 of my CD collection. What is your favorite album out of the ones that I just unveiled for you guys? As far as when the next update will be coming, probably in 2 weeks' time when I get more. I've got 3 albums coming soon, and then I'm probably going to purchase some off of Amazon, and then we'll go from there. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Horns high, and I will see you soon. But for today's episode of the Mosh Pit Reviews, probably right now the biggest album to come out in 2019, and it's from the pioneers of death metal, arguably the pioneers of death metal, Possessed, and their first album in 33 years entitled Revelations of Oblivion. But the point I'm making with the respect Jeff should get, he goes out, tours the world, playing festivals, singing while in a wheelchair, where pop stars, if they get sick, theirs was canceled. Jeff goes up in a wheelchair and performs just as hard, if not harder, than any other metal frontman out there. So, total respect for Jeff Becerra. I'd love to see them make another album in the future and see where they go next.